There was once a man who went to a wise monk and asked, "Why am I not happy? I have everything: money, comfort, food, a house, but something still feels missing." The monk smiled and said, "You are chasing happiness like it's a destination. But happiness is not a place you reach, it is a way you live." Then he added softly, "The happiest people don't do big dramatic things. They do small things every single day. And today, let's talk about those small things. Not revolutionary, not complicated, but quietly powerful." There was a young man who used to wake up every morning feeling tired even after a full night's sleep. The first thing he did was reach for his phone. Notifications, emails, social media updates, news headlines, messages he hadn't replied to before his feet even touched the ground. One day, he met an elderly monk during a visit to a quiet retreat. The monk asked him, "What is the first thing you feed your mind every morning?" The man laughed casually, "Whatever is waiting on my phone." The monk smiled and said, "Then you are not starting your day, you are surrendering it." That sentence stayed with him, because unknowingly he had been allowing the world to set his emotional tone every morning. If there was bad news, his mood sank. If there were comparisons, his confidence dropped. If there were messages of pressure, his peace disappeared before the day even began. So he tried something different. The next morning, he didn't reach for his phone. Instead, he sat quietly. He took a deep breath. He looked out of his window. He noticed things he had ignored for years: the soft light of dawn, the sound of birds, the simple fact that he was alive and breathing. It felt strange at first, almost uncomfortable, because silence reveals what noise hides. But slowly, something changed. His mornings stopped feeling like emergencies. His mind stopped feeling like a battlefield. He began to feel present. In real life, many successful people follow similar habits. They protect their first hour. Some meditate, some journal. Some simply sit with a cup of tea without screens. Not because they have extra time, but because they understand something important. The quality of your morning decides the quality of your thinking. There is a subtle truth here. The mind is like soil. Whatever seeds you plant first, peace or panic, clarity or confusion, will grow throughout the day. If your first interaction is with chaos, your mind learns chaos. If your first interaction is with stillness, your mind learns balance. Happiness often doesn't begin in the afternoon when things go well. It begins in the morning when you decide not to be emotionally hijacked by the world. And so the happiest people do something simple but powerful. They start their day with themselves, not the world. There was a woman who lived a very simple life in a small town. She didn't have luxury, she didn't have wealth, and she had faced her share of struggles. Yet, every evening, she would sit quietly and write three things she was grateful for that day. One day, a neighbor asked her, "How can you still find things to be thankful for? Life is not easy for you." She smiled gently and said, "That is exactly why I must look for them." She didn't write big achievements. She wrote things like, "I had warm tea today. I spoke to my daughter. The sky looked beautiful this morning." To many people, these seem too small to matter, but to her, they were anchors of peace. Because gratitude is not about pretending life is perfect, it is about refusing to ignore the parts that are still beautiful. In real life, we often make happiness conditional. I will be happy when I get a better job. I will be happy when I buy a house. I will be happy when life becomes easier. But the happiest people reverse this thinking. They don't wait for life to become perfect. They notice the perfection already hidden inside ordinary moments. There is a story of a man who lost his job unexpectedly. For weeks, he felt lost and frustrated. One day, while sitting in a small roadside tea stall, he noticed the shopkeeper greeting every customer with genuine warmth. Even people who didn't buy anything were smiled at. Curious, he asked, "Why are you always so happy even though this is a small shop?" The shopkeeper replied, "Because I learned something early. If I wait for big happiness, I will miss the small happiness that is already here." That conversation changed the man's perspective. He started noticing things he had ignored before: his ability to walk, to breathe, to think, to try again. Over time, his mindset shifted. New opportunities came not because life suddenly became easier, but because his awareness changed. Gratitude works like a lens. The world remains the same, but your experience of it transforms. Without gratitude, even abundance feels empty. With gratitude, even simplicity feels full. And perhaps that is why the happiest people don't chase happiness directly. They simply notice what they already have and quietly say thank you. There was a school teacher who used to believe that kindness was something you show only when it is deserved. If a student behaved well, he would be kind. If not, he would be strict, distant, even cold. One day, he met an old principal who told him, "Your kindness is not a reward system, it is a reflection of you." That sentence disturbed him. So he started observing himself. He noticed something surprising. He was kind when people were kind to him, but he was impatient when people were rude. His behavior depended entirely on others. One evening, something small happened that changed him. A student accidentally spilled water on his desk. Instead of getting angry, he paused, took a deep breath, and calmly said, "It's okay, let's clean it together." The student looked shocked. He had expected punishment. Later, that same student wrote him a note. "That day, I learned what real strength looks like." That moment stayed with the teacher forever, because kindness is not weakness. It is emotional strength under control. In real life, we often think kindness must be earned. But the happiest people practice kindness even when there is no applause, no recognition, no benefit. A man once shared how he made it a habit to greet security guards, cleaners, and drivers with the same respect he gave CEOs. Someone asked him why. He said, "Because I want to remind myself that dignity is not based on position." Kindness also protects your own peace. When you respond harshly, you often carry that negativity within you. But when you respond kindly, you remain light. And perhaps the deepest truth is this: you never know what someone is going through. A small act of kindness may become the moment that keeps them going. The happiest people understand this. So they choose kindness not because the world always deserves it, but because they do. There was a farmer who once made a mistake during harvest season. He lost a large portion of his crop due to poor planning. For weeks, he kept blaming himself. Every morning, instead of focusing on the new season, he kept thinking about the past failure. Slowly, his motivation faded. His land remained unattended. One day, his father said to him, "Son, if you keep farming yesterday's field in your mind, you will never plant today's seeds in reality." That sentence hit him deeply. He realized he was emotionally stuck in a moment that no longer existed. So the next morning, he did something different. He went to his field and began again. Not perfectly, not confidently, but present. In real life, many people live this way: physically in today, but mentally in yesterday. A past argument, a regretful decision, a missed opportunity, a painful memory. But the happiest people understand something essential. The past is a teacher, not a home. They learn from it, but they don't live in it. There was a woman who went through a painful divorce. For months, she replayed every conversation, every mistake, every what if. But slowly, she started journaling one line every morning. Today is not a continuation of yesterday's pain. It didn't erase her past, but it stopped her from living inside it. Letting go is not forgetting. It is choosing to move forward without dragging unnecessary weight. And when people learn this, something shifts. Their energy returns, their decisions improve, their life opens again. Because happiness cannot grow in the soil of yesterday's regret. It grows only in the awareness of today. There was an old man who used to sit outside his house every evening on a wooden chair. He wasn't wealthy. He didn't travel much. He didn't have a big social circle. But every evening, without fail, he would wait. People in the neighborhood thought he was just passing time. But the truth was deeper. He was waiting for someone to talk to him. His children had moved to different cities. His wife had passed away years ago. The house was quiet too. Quiet. And in that silence, he realized something most people only understand late in life. Life is not about how many people you know, but how many people truly connect with you. One day, a young neighbor started noticing him. Instead of just greeting him, the young man began sitting with him for a few minutes each evening. At first, the conversations were simple: weather, local news, small talk. But slowly, something changed. The old man began to open up. He spoke about his youth, his struggles, his regrets, his happiest days. And the young man realized something powerful. The old man didn't need advice. He didn't need solutions. He just needed presence. In real life, many of us are surrounded by people but still feel emotionally alone. Families sit in the same room but are lost in their own screens. Friends meet but don't truly listen. Conversations happen but connection is missing. The happiest people do something different. They make space for real presence, not distracted presence, not half listening presence, but full, undivided attention. There was a businessman who once shared that he stopped taking phone calls during dinner with his family. At first, it felt uncomfortable, but soon his children started talking more. His wife smiled more. Something simple shifted the atmosphere of his home. He realized something profound. Connection doesn't require more time, it requires more attention. Happiness grows in shared laughter, in being heard, in being seen, in feeling understood. And perhaps that is why even a 10-minute real conversation can feel more fulfilling than hours of digital interaction. Because the human heart doesn't measure connection in time, it measures it in presence. There was a man who used to go to sleep every night carrying the weight of the entire day. If something went wrong, he replayed it in his mind. If he made a mistake, he punished himself mentally. If someone hurt him, he kept reliving the moment again and again. Sleep became difficult. Peace became rare. One night, he visited his grandfather in a small village. The grandfather lived a very simple life, but every night he slept peacefully, as if the world had no burden left on his shoulders. Curious, the man asked, "How do you sleep so easily with so little worry?" The grandfather smiled and said, "Because I don't take today's unfinished thoughts into tomorrow's rest." Then he added something even deeper. "Before I sleep, I close the day. Not perfectly, but peacefully." That sentence stayed with him. So that night, he tried something new. Instead of replaying his mistakes, he wrote down three things: what went well today, what he learned, and what he would let go of. It didn't fix his problems instantly, but it softened his mind. In real life, many people struggle not because their day is too difficult, but because they never mentally end it. The mind keeps working even when the body is tired. But the happiest people understand a quiet truth. Rest is not just physical, it is emotional closure. There was a woman who used to meditate for 5 minutes before bed. Not to solve her life, but simply to say to herself, "Today is done. I did what I could." That simple acceptance reduced her anxiety significantly over time. Because peace is not found in perfect days, it is found in completed days. And when you learn to release the day before sleep, something beautiful happens. You don't carry yesterday's weight into tomorrow's potential. You wake up lighter, clearer, more open to life again. So when we look at all six habits together, something becomes very clear. Happiness is not loud. It is not complicated. It is not dependent on perfect circumstances. It lives in a calm morning, a grateful heart, a kind response, a released, past a real connection, a peaceful night. There is a simple truth hidden in all of this. You don't become happy by chasing happiness. You become happy by practicing small, meaningful ways of living. And slowly, without even realizing it, life doesn't just become better, you become lighter within it.